Hello ACU students, welcome to week 5 of Business 426 Production Management Operations. Let's go look at our objectives for this week and look at some of the concepts that we're going to be studying. Then I'm going to talk about week 5's paper that's due because it's pretty significant and I want to go through it with you. Alright, this week we're going to be looking at the process of global sourcing and procurement. Sourcing and procurement honestly used to be called purchasing in the old days, if you will. But because of the global nature now of purchasing, it's taken on a whole new concept and a whole new perception. So it's global sourcing now and procurement. If you hear the word purchasing, you know what that's about. Then we're also going to look at learning and applying the concept of product and service forecasting. In any business, you have to do forecasting of incoming orders, whether it be in a restaurant or a service industry where you have to predict who's going to be walking in the front door. Same with the products in a manufacturing plant and that sort of thing. All right, so we're going to run through some of this really quick and then we're going to look at week 5's assignment. When we talk about strategic sourcing, it's a concept actually. It's a development and management of relationships between suppliers and your company and even between other suppliers. And like I said in the past, it used to be called purchasing, kind of in the old days. And as a result of globalization though, and the need to think much broader, more than just about price, it's not just purchasing things at a price anymore. Remember the triple bottom line concept where we talk about price and environment and some sort of social cause, if you will, the ways that most businesses get measured now. So sourcing really is about looking at all three of those concepts. This is a nice little grid that shows you kind of like in one landscape how it all works. Let's talk about when you buy something off the internet, say at Amazon, for example. That's a pretty low transaction cost for you. You usually get a pretty good deal because you can shop around quite a bit and you have a lot of choices. Oh, where's my cursor? There it is. So transaction cost is pretty low. You don't get a lot of choice on how to specify. I mean, you can specify things that are already made, but you can't custom a lot of things when you buy it through this kind of a spot purchase. Think about if you go to buy a used car, for example. That might be another example of a spot purchase. And the contract duration of your relationship with that supplier that you're buying it from, say with the car dealer or with even Amazon or whomever, it's just for that period of time when you're buying that particular thing and you're not long-term obligated with them. At the other, so that's up here at spot purchase. At the other corner, the southwest corner of this grid, if you will, is something different. It's called strategic alliance. We do this a lot in the automotive industry here in the Midwest. And I'm sure there are similar agreements out where you're at in other industries as well. So, for example, what this looks like is with Ford Motor Company, for example, we spent a lot of time on site with Ford as a supplier of exhaust systems, working with them. We had a strategic alliance with them. High transaction cost for our company. Lots of people working on this account to launch a particular vehicle's exhaust system. Long contract duration. It would take 2 years and sometimes longer to launch these kinds of products. And the specificity was very high. Like we built the products exactly to the customer's requirements, to Ford, GM, Chrysler, Toyota, whoever, Honda, whoever it would be. But we got paid very well for that. Okay, so that's kind of a way to look at that matrix. Outsourcing, like I said, in the automotive industry and in other industries, it works like this. Companies will outsource specific design. Maybe the company doesn't have the resources, for example, the specific resources to do what they need to do, so they outsource that. And that's a good way for a company to move things forward without having to necessarily hire the full-time employees that would have those skill sets and abilities, so they outsource it. Pretty common right now, and it builds a supply chain. So obviously we've been talking about supply chains, value chains, outsourcing is part of that. Quickly, let's talk about forecasting. It's a critical role in any industry, in any sector, like I talked about it a minute ago. Finance and accounting uses forecasts to, they want to forecast revenues and expenses for a particular period. Marketing wants to know what to do when they forecast, like how should they market a particular product or a particular service. When you think about digital tactics now, they change often, and it's based on best guess for forecasting. And forecasting tries to reduce the guesswork in that. And then, of course, production needs to know what's coming at it so it can ramp up labor, make sure there's enough machine capacity available, and that sort of thing. There's different types of forecasting. The most common one is this one called time series analysis. And it's really the past as a predictor of the future kind of a thought. So that is the one that's most common. More complicated ones and frankly more accurate ones are these things like simulations and that sort of thing. A number of these topics are mentioned in your book, and make sure you read about them. So reminders this week. Make sure you check out chapters 16 and 18, read them thoroughly. I just did a quick overview for you now. But the papers you write and the quizzes you take and the discussions you have to write about all hit both those chapters. And the paper, so it's due on Sunday night. I want to talk about that for a moment. So let me jump over to Canvas for a moment here. So this is week 5 assignment in Canvas. And hopefully you can see it out. This is exactly what you'll see as well. So if it's a little bit small text, I apologize. So here's what I want you to do with week 5. And this will be true for week 5, week 7, and I think week 8 as well. So this is your first of 3 chances to do this. So I want you to pick a company that's of interest to you. And you can't use the same company for weeks 5 and 6, or excuse me, weeks 5 and 7. We'll talk about the presentation later. I'll probably let you reuse one of those companies. So pick a company that's of interest to you in an industry that maybe you want to work in someday. Collect some interesting and relevant data about that. Find their mission. Find out what they're about. It could be a local company where you go to all the time. It could be some company off the internet that maybe you're interested in. Look for quantitative charts that describe measurements about their company. Look for qualitative information that might describe the characteristics of their company. What do employees say? Look on Glassdoor, see what people say about that particular company. Make sure you check out this thing called the Parson-Thompson model. It's in a video that I put underneath the materials for success. Let me, and I won't show it to you right now. You can go look for it yourself. But there's a video in there underneath materials for success. It's called Efficiency, Effectiveness, and Value. And watch that. It's critical to completing this assignment because I want you to write about and think about this Parson-Thompson model about how organizations are viewed, one way to view organization. Talk about the manufacturing processes and the services. Again, use references in the text that we've already studied. So go back, review what kind of manufacturing processes or service processes does this company use. Look for articles, white papers, dig deep to find out about this company. Sift and sort through the data that you collect and look at market forces that are driving the company or not driving them that should be. What direction's the company going? Figuring out kind of the three bottom line requirements. How are they doing against that? Look at their logistics. And from your analysis, then develop like a list of problems that can be solved by them. Look at the solutions from the text that can be matched with those problems. I'm not asking you to write a lot here. 5 pages per the assignment requirements. So write some. And for your paper, pick 1 or 2 problems that you can write about and match them up with solutions from the book. Again, I do not want your opinions about how you can fix this. I want you to go to the course text and say, for this problem, this solution out of the course text would work. And, that part of it is your opinion. You're picking up a potential solution. I'm okay with that. But just don't say things like, I feel like we should do this, or I think that they should do that. Support it with some solutions from the text, some real solutions. Now, I've included a writing template for you to use here to get you started. And I've also included a sample. This is a benchmarkable sample from another university where I teach at. And this student overachieved on the length of the paper. I think it's like 13 pages long, so don't feel like you have to do that. Follow the requirements in the syllabus that I gave you for the length. But it just gives you an idea of like the depth of writing and the depth of research that they did about this particular company. Okay, I think that's it. Listen, you guys are doing great. Hang in there. A few more weeks to go.